Full Stack Basics presents Master JavaScript. Unlock the power behind the frameworks.
Hey everyone, and welcome to truth number 4.
Building SPAs with React before learning JavaScript is like flying a plane with no pilot training. Cool idea, until you hit turbulence.
This episode proves that you can build single-page application navigation. Yes, the thing React Router was built for, using only vanilla JavaScript. And once you do this, React Router won't feel like black magic. It'll feel like an assistant to a skill you already own. So let's go ahead and start with the DevTruths vanilla JavaScript app that we created in the past episodes. First thing we're going to do is go to style.css. And in here, right at the bottom, I'm going to include the following styling. First, the styling for a nav and an A tag. Please pause and implement. Then I'm going to include a hover effect here. Please pause and implement. And then lastly, I'm going to include an ID called view. Pause and implement this new CSS code. Once this is done, we are going to go to index.html. For now, we are going to simply comment out all the HTML in the body. And what we're going to do is very simple. First, in the body, we are going to create a nav. And for this, we need the nav tags. Then, we're going to use the A tag to create a few links in our navigation bar. First, we're going to have the A tag for home, and then we're going to include two more, one for about and one for contact. Very important to include the hashes here. Make sure that the syntax is correct on your end. Please pause and implement. Last thing we're going to do in the HTML is that we are going to include a div with the ID of view. This is very important because what we're going to do is that for each link that we have here, we're going to display something different within the div with the ID of view. So please pause and implement this. Once this is done, right above this script tag here, I'm going to include a script tag for a file that we're going to create next, router.js. Please pause and implement. With this created, let's go ahead and include our router.js file. Please go ahead and do the same. Once you have this, we are going to create an object that contains all the routes, like so. Please pause and implement. Now, this object is going to contain all the routes and the HTML snippet that we want to display when the user tries to navigate to all the individual routes that we're going to have in our navigation bar. So I'm going to start with the home one. And as you can see, when the user simply goes to the main route, then it displays an H2 that reads, "Welcome to the home page," along with a paragraph. This is built with vanilla JavaScript. Please pause and implement this. Next, I'm going to take care of the about and the contact. I'm just going to save here to reformat. And once again, when the user is in /about, it's going to display this HTML snippet, and the same with contact. Please pause and implement this. Next, in router.js, we're going to minimize this, and then we are going to create a function called navigate. This function takes no parameters, so please go ahead and implement the function. Now, the first thing this function does is that it takes the path in the browser. Please pause and implement this. The second thing that it does is that it gets control of the div with the ID of view. Please pause and implement. Last thing it does is that it takes that view div and it loads the inner HTML with the HTML snippet in each individual path, or else simply gives us an H2 404 page not found. Please pause and implement. Now that we have the logic for routing, all we have to do is simply include an event listener in the window whenever the hash changes. Remember, in our navbar, and I'm going to open this to the right so that you understand where this is coming from. In the navbar, all of our links have the hash at the beginning, and then depending on the route, obviously the hash is going to change. So that's the event that we're listening for. And when that event takes place, that's when we call this navigate function. And then lastly, we're going to add an event listener for the load event, in which we're going to, of course, call the navigate as well. So please pause and implement. Once this is all done on your end, we can actually open our index.html. Now in the browser, as you can see here in the home page, when we are in this route, we have this HTML displayed. When we go to About, it changes, and when we go to Contact, it changes. So basically, without refreshing the application, we have been able to make this a single page application, obviously a simple one, but now you know how routes pretty much display individual components. What you just did is to create a full single page application navigation system using 0 frameworks. It's readable, it's clean, and it works. So you legit wrote a router without installing anything. So now that we know how this works at a very high level, it's time to do React. So go ahead and meet me over at your DevTruths React app.
This premium content is brought to you by Full Stack Basics JavaScript Bundle. Create a full stack Kanban board prototype with VanillaJS and the Gem stack, including registration, login, and drag and drop functionality without libraries. Next, create a production-ready Kanban board with the Mern stack, including Google single sign-on and drag and drop. Learn more at fullstackbasics.io/projects.
So we're here in the DevTruths React app that we created a few episodes ago. So I am here in app.jsx. First thing we're going to do is simply comment out the JSX that we have here. Please do the same. Next thing we're going to do is open the terminal. Make sure that if you check your directory, you are in the same directory where the package.json file is. Once you have checked that, we are going to execute the following command here in the terminal: npm install react-router-dom. Please go ahead and do this. Once this is done, you can come here to package.json, and in dependencies, you will see react-router-dom. Don't worry if your version is newer than mine. With this done, what we can do now is go back to app.jsx. And up here in the imports, we are going to import browser router as router, routes, route, and link from React Router DOM. Please go ahead and do the same. Now that we have this set up, here in components, we are going to create 3 reusable components. The first one is going to be called home.jsx, and we're going to use our snippet to create the barebones component. Please pause and implement this. The next one I want you to create right here in the components folder is going to be the about.jsx, and I want you to please create the boilerplate as well. Please pause and do this. The last one is going to be contact.jsx. So let's go ahead and create that one. And at this point, you know what to do. That's how awesome you are. Pause and implement. Now that we have these 3 components, we are going to go to app.jsx, and we're simply going to import these components up here. Please pause and make sure that you have this done. Once this is done, we are going to work inside of our return function. And the first thing we want to do is that we want to set up the router tag here. we are going to actually wrap this div with the ID app with the router tag like so. Please pause and implement. Now that you have that done, then inside here, right above the commented code, we are simply going to create the navbar, very similar to how we did it for VanillaJS, like so. We have the nav tags here, and we're going to use the link from React Router DOM to then include the links for each one of the views. In this case, we do not need the hash. Pause and implement. Once you have this done, let's take a quick trip to app.css. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the file, and we're going to include the styling for our navigation bar. Very important. This time the view is a class. Pause and implement. Now we're going to head back to our app.jsx. And under the app.jsx, what we're going to do is that we're going to include a div with the class of view. And inside of here, we are going to include all the routes for each one of the components that we want to view. And the first thing that we have to do is include the routes tag so that then we can include all three routes in here. Please pause and implement. Then I am going to start by creating the route for the home element. So the first thing that you're going to notice here is that this route tag is self-closing. It actually points to this path, and the element that gets rendered when we are in that route is actually the home component that we imported up here, as you can see. So please pause and implement this route. Now that we have that implemented, then I'm going to create the other two routes like so for about and contact. Please pause and implement. Perfect. So now that this is done, I am going to just go to home.jsx, and I'm simply going to include some HTML tags here. So I'm going to delete that home there and just include an H2 and a P tag. You can do the same. Let's go ahead, and now that you have done this, do the same for about. So simply delete this and include something that makes more sense. Let me save this. Perfect. Pause, implement. And then we're going to do the same for contact. Let's remove this boilerplate message here and include an H2 and a P tag. Pause and implement. Now that this is done, we can go to the terminal. We can npm run dev our application, and we can go to our browser. Meet me over there. And as you can see, we have created exactly the same single page navigation, only this time we used 3 separate components, and we use React Router DOM first to set up a router where we have our main div. And then we set up each individual route with the specific path and the specific element that we want the app to display for us. What we have just done is learn that yes, React made this easier to scale. But what powers React Router? Well, as you learned in the previous app, that abstracted logic is clearly powered by JavaScript. Right? It's the same core concepts: URL tracking, page switching, and overall DOM rendering. But why does this matter and why it proves the truth? So as you saw, frameworks help you go fast. They help you fly and get your complex apps up faster. And that's great. That's what they are for. However, if you don't know how to manage state or update DOM or changing views in vanilla JavaScript, then what happens when the framework breaks? If you build a single page application with vanilla JavaScript first, React Router becomes a tool that you understand, not a magic trick that you've blindly copied. This is the power of single page applications with vanilla JavaScript first. Now that we have done this, I'll see you in the next episode where we're going to uncover Dev Truth number 5.